Obama fighting back today on the issue of meeting with rogue leaders. He's been hammered by the Clinton camp for saying he would meet with leaders of countries like Iran, North Korea, Venezuela, and Cuba without preconditions, an attack he responded to today.
Senator Clinton, Senator McCain, and President Bush have all made the same arguments against my position on diplomacy. It seems that they're all reading from the same political playbook. They say I will be penciling in the world's dictators on my social calendar. But just as they're misrepresenting my positions on Pakistan, they are mistaken in standing up for a policy of not talking that is not working.
You can't talk about misrepresenting and then say that. Clinton's never said she won't talk to those leaders, and to lump her positions in with Bush isn't fair. What she's consistently said is she would meet with them as long as certain preconditions are met first. Obama's again trying to use what I view as his blunder of having said he'd meet with no rules against her. Dee Dee?
Yeah, I think that is a position that he is trying to fudge. But it's one if I was him, I wouldn't want to carry into a general election. I don't think that stands up very well in a general election. I think Senator Clinton has a more traditional position. It's not the same position as President Bush or even John McCain, but I think she does believe preconditions are required.
Lawrence?
I think Hillary's position is absolutely, as Dee Dee just said, traditional, which means it is identical to Bush, to John McCain, to the previous President Clinton, to the previous President Bush. This is the American way. Very, very heavy preconditions on meeting with anyone. Barack Obama wants to break that. He's coming from a very different perspective on this.
Yeah, but again, but that's not the words he used. I mean, he's talking about unwillingness to meet, AB.
Right.
She is.
If she has said that she's willing to meet but do so with preconditions, then in an effort at this hour where he needs to the most to draw a contrast, he shouldn't fudge the facts. I mean, this was a turning point for them last August at a debate where she was more the commander-in-chief, more presidential, and he's trying to fight back against it, but he can't fudge the facts.
And again, he was fair. The attacks were okay until the very end. Obama gets the strike on this one. That gives us 2 strikes for Obama, 1 for Clinton heading into the break. Everyone's sticking around. We're back on their trail tonight, assessing today's misstatements, cheap shots, and blunders on the campaign trail. Right now, Obama is behind on our nightly scorecard with 2 strikes against him. Clinton has 1. Next up, Hillary Clinton speaking yesterday alongside former U.S. Ambassador Joe Wilson, touting her foreign policy credentials by discussing a diplomatic trip she made to Africa in 1997.
I'm delighted to be here with Ambassador Wilson. He and I did travel together to Africa and sort of paved the way for the president's trip the following year.
I'm going to give Clinton a slight misstatement on this one. According to ABC News, Joe Wilson never made that trip with her. Clinton may have been confusing Joe Wilson with his predecessor, Susan Rice, who did go on the trip with Clinton. She also happens to be a top advisor to Barack Obama's campaign. Now, look, there have been a lot of allegations that Clinton is overstating the facts when it comes to her foreign policy experience. Most of those issues are pretty hard to fact-check, but Lawrence, this one seems pretty easy to check.
Yeah, I think you've got her on this one, Dan. I wish she would not rely on trying to beef up her resume as First Lady. She was involved in one extraordinary governing attempt at First Lady on the health care bill. She failed miserably and has said so. She's got a solid, substantial record as a senator. That's where the concentration should be. That's where her campaign concentration should be.
Dee Dee?
She made a mistake. It's poor staff work, perhaps. I don't know. Or memory fails. So, yes, I think if ABC News is, in fact, correct, which we assume they are, she was wrong about that. But I don't understand why nobody wants to give her credit for her time as First Lady. She's not claiming that as her only credential. She did a lot, you know.
It's just hard to know exactly what she did. That's the problem.
And we're going to find out a little more from the 11,000 pages of documents that came out today. But I think that traveling around the world as emissary on behalf of the President of the United States, having a very high-profile, sort of entry into these countries and dealing with world leaders counts for something. Yep. I just do. I think it's not the same as cutting ribbons in somewhere stateside. I think that gives you a perspective on the world. It's not the only credential she claims, but give her credit for it.
Yeah, AB, I think the problem a lot of people have is saying, look, she's whatever she did, a lot of people view it as she's the wife. She's the wife. She's not the president, and therefore for her to sort of to claim credit for accomplishments there is hard, and it's so hard to quantify What did she actually do? Okay, yeah, she was on this trip. Yeah, she took a trip here, but how much influence does she have when she's just the first lady, et cetera?
And you could hear it in the way that she described it. She said, we took this trip which paved the way for the president's trip the following year. It's sort of, you find in these moments when she's trying to claim the credit but then disassociate herself from the failures, it's an awkward dance for her to do. And she talks about, 35 years and then her Senate, and she tries to lump together the administration sort of into her resume. And it's always awkward for her because she has not been able to be too specific, as Lawrence mentioned, beyond health care in what she's really been involved in and can take credit for. But in terms of, look, I agree with Didi. I'm as confused. She's a smart lady, and this is a very strange gaffe for her to not know that she was traveling with Susan Rice, who went to work for
Clinton. Gets the strike on this one, tying up our scorecard going into the final round. Today, Clinton released more than 11,000 pages of records dating back to her time as First Lady. The Clinton camp now turning the tables on Obama, demanding he release all of his records from his time as a state senator in Illinois. Quote, Senator Obama and his campaign like to talk about transparency. We call on him to back up his words with action and release his schedules and other records from his time as an Illinois state senator. Lawrence, I'm going to rule this one fair game. First Lady records, yeah, they're more significant, but if the Obama camp is going to make a big deal out of Clinton's First Lady record, shouldn't they expect the same type of scrutiny?
Yeah, I suppose. I personally don't care about any of these records. I care about what's their position on financing Social Security, which neither one of them wants to talk about. How are they going to keep Medicare solvent? Neither one of them wants to talk about that. This is all about what are they going to do as president. And I think it's also relevant to talk about what they've done as United States senators. I think the First Lady years are irrelevant.
Once you go down this road, once you go down the road of demanding records, right? I mean,
yeah, I think it's totally. I mean, the Obama campaign has made transparency an issue. They've attacked, Senator Clinton for not releasing her tax records and other records from White House days. Put your records out there. I don't suspect there's anything too terribly damaging in Senator Obama's Senate years.
AB, any thoughts on this one?
Yes, I mean, all's fair in love and war and petty politics. If you ask for something from your rival's campaign, you ask them to disclose one thing, you better know that they're going to ask you to disclose everything, including your 7th grade diary.
Yeah, I guess the difference is when you're a state senator in Illinois, you probably have one person working in your office, and it's not exactly like the records are going to be kept the way your First Lady.
It's interesting that people say, oh, her years as First Lady are irrelevant. She didn't do anything meaningful. Let's have the records. And for Senator Obama, it's like, we don't really care about his time in the Senate. I mean, it's an interesting contrast.
All right, I'm not giving either of them a strike on this one, leaving us with a rare on-their-trail tie tonight. Didi Myers, great to have you here. Thank you very much for coming on. Appreciate it. As always, Lawrence and AB, you're going to stick around.